Hello guys, my name is Gerald. You're welcome to another lesson. Today's lesson will be discussing the staff. We'll be discussing the lines and the spaces on the staff. We'll be discussing the different clefs we have and ledger lines. So let's jump right in. So at the end of this lesson, what I want you to understand is what a staff is. I want you to understand also the different types of clefs we have, which is the treble and the bass clef. I also want you to understand the concept of ledger lines, and lastly, grand staffs. So let's jump right in. This right here is a staff. It has 5 lines and 4 spaces. Now the lines are counted, the lines and the spaces are numbered from below. So this is line 1, this is line 2, this is line 3, this is line 4, and this is line 5. References can be made to can be referred to the 5th line. You don't start counting from here, you start counting from below. So likewise, the spaces are numbered in the same way. This is the first space, this is the second space, this is the third space, this is the 4th space. So now let's move on to how the staff is named. We'll name the staffs like I explained in the former lesson, that the piano names, the letter names of the keyboard keys are gotten from the English alphabet. In the same way, the letter names of the staff are gotten from the English alphabet. And this is a treble clef here. And in the treble clef, the first line is an E, alright? And then you fill in the gap like so alphabetically. If this line is an E, then you should know that this space is an F, followed by this line a G. You don't have a H in music, it stops at G. So if this line is a G, this space will be an A, alright? So in the next slide, we'll be seeing a pictorial description of this. Like I mentioned, the first line is an E, right? This is an E. The first space after the first line is an F, and then you fill in alphabetically E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F. Alright? So now let's move on to the second type of clef we have, which is the bass clef. The bass clef, the first line of the bass clef is a G, and then you fill in alphabetically. This is a G, you don't count H, you go to A, right? This is an A, and this second line will be a B, right? And this space will be a C, this line will be a D, right? You just fill in, it's simple, you just fill in alphabetically. I mentioned this line is a G, right? And this space here will be an A, alright? This line will be a B, and then this space will be a C, right? D, E, F, G. Just fill in alphabetically. It's that simple. So now let's move on to ledger lines. So the question will arise, what if I want to write music that is higher than the treble clef or lower than the treble clef? Or what if you're writing music in the bass clef and you want to write a note that is higher than the bass clef or lower than the bass clef? That is where the concept of ledger line comes in. So this is a ledger line right here. This is a ledger line, this is a ledger line. If you want to write this A that is above the treble clef, you simply just draw a small line and then write whatever note you want to write on it. The same thing on the bass clef. So the names, letter names of the first ledger line above the treble clef is an A, C. Likewise, the ones below the treble clef. Just as it's written here, the ledger lines above the bass clef, the first one is a C, the second one is an E. Below the treble clef, the bass clef rather, the first one is a C, the second one is an E. Alright? So now let's move on to the grand staff. The grand staff is a pictorial display of the treble clef and the bass clef written together. And this will show you the relationship between both of them. You see, the piano is one whole instrument. Alright? The piano is one instrument. Likewise, music on the staff follows the same sequence. Alright? So this is a G, this is an A, this is a B, and this is a C. This is the middle C. Remember in previous lessons we discussed a middle C, and on the piano this is our middle C, right? So this is the middle C on the ground staff. Notes above the ground staff: a D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Notes below the middle C rather: a B, A, G, F, E, D, C. Just like we can see on this picture on my slide here. The notes before the middle C is a B, followed by an A, followed by a G. Alright? So on the next slide you would see, a piano being shown. So these notes are not just arbitrary notes. You can find them on the piano too. Alright? So the dotted line shows you where you can find the notes written on the staff on the piano. This first A is the one right here on the piano, right? So now let's count. We said this is our middle C, right? This is our middle C, and this is middle C on the keyboard. This is middle C on the treble clef. This is middle C on the bass clef. Alright? So now let's count. Where is this A right here on the keyboard? It is this one right here. See the first A below middle C. That's this one right here. This is the second A below middle C. Alright? And then this is the third A below middle C. Alright? Going forward to this is the first A above middle C. This is the second A above middle C. And it goes on like that. So this lesson, my goal for this lesson is to help you understand the letter names of the notes on the bass clef and the treble clef. Like I mentioned, music is about what to play and when to play it. On a previous lesson, we discussed when to play it, which is counting, timing. Now we are discussing what to play. If you see a note written here on this ledger line below the treble clef, it is signifying a C. So you play this note on the keyboard. So you can take a screenshot of this diagram. It will help you. You will make reference to it in future as you continue learning. So let's move on to the conclusion. We discussed the staff, what it is. It is simply 5 lines and 4 spaces. Nothing bigger than that. It's simple. The treble clef and the bass clef simply tells you the letter names of the staff. If you see a treble clef there, it means the first line is an E. If you see a bass clef drawn there, you will know that the first line is a G, and then you fill in alphabetically. Then the ledger line, the concept of the ledger line comes in when you have notes that are above the treble clef or below the treble clef. Likewise, above the bass clef and below the bass clef. That's where the concept of the ledger line comes in. And then the ground staff puts both clefs in perspective. I showed you a picture of a keyboard and the ground staff, which will tell you where the letter names on the staffs are on the keyboard. So I hope this lesson, has helped you understand the what aspect, the letter names of the notes on the staff. Yes, the treble and the bass clef. So thank you for joining in. I hope you join me in the next lesson. Thank you.